Good afternoon, everyone. The International Parking Mobility Institute presents today's Learning Lab, How a Safety Solution Also Changes Illegal Parking Behavior, presented by MPS. My name is Kenny, and I'll be assisting in moderating today's presentation. As a reminder, today's presentation is being recorded. We will make the recording available online on IPMI's YouTube channel within a few days. Before we start, I would like to go over a few quick housekeeping rules for today. This Learning Lab will last 60 minutes with a Q&A session at the end. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please feel free to queue up questions at any time by typing them in the chat. We will get to as many questions as time allows. It is now my pleasure to introduce Rob Matthews, MBA, Vice President of Sales and Business Development, Municipal Parking Services. Rob Matthews, MBA, is the Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Municipal Parking Services, MPS, and a parking and municipal consulting professional. Rob is also an active member of the International Parking Mobility Institute, Smart Pennies Connect, the New England Parking Council, and the Massachusetts Technology Leadership Council. And before we get started, I'm going to launch a quick poll question for our participants today. If you could take a quick second to answer the poll question on your screen. And the poll question is, do you know about Vision Zero? And does your city have a Vision Zero initiative taking place? Give everybody about a couple more seconds to answer that. And a couple more people there.
Can we do a Family Feud format next time, Kenny? You know, we asked 100 parking professionals.
We should.
What their top answers were?
I think we've done that at conference, actually. It's really fun. Everybody loves it. Yeah, I think I will bring that up for next time. All right, let's see some results here. All right. Thank you so much for participating.
That's really insightful. So about half are familiar with Vision Zero, and less than half have an initiative going. Very, very interesting.
Thank you. And with that, Rob, the audience is all yours.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Again, Rob Matthews here from MPS. This is the agenda that I'm going to try to cover, and I think I can get done well under an hour. I'm going to tell you a little bit about MPS. I'm going to talk a little bit about a technology that we invented called the SafetyStick. I'm going to talk about why it exists, how it's linked to Vision Zero. For those of you that are not familiar with Vision Zero, I'll elaborate a little bit on that. I'll talk about where the SafetyStick is installed and how it works. And we'll show you examples of violations from around the country and what type of quantitative results it achieves. We talked about it reducing illegal parking by over 90% in the title of this webinar, and luckily I've got some data to back that up. So I want to thank everybody for joining me today. I forgot to put my email address on here. It's rob@mpspark.com. If you want to reach out to me after this webinar, you have any questions about what I've talked about, I'm happy to discuss that with you. So about MPS, we have three main product lines. We have an on-street meter that we invented that uses a lot of the same technology that I'm going to be showing you today. We have an off-street parking technology business where we monitor permit recognition, collect payments in garage and lot settings, and we also do enforcement using that same LPR technology. We also have installations in hospitality environments, marinas, retail and apartment settings around the country. And of course, we have the SafetyStick, which is focused singly on no parking zones, places that are dangerous to park, and places where people need to be deterred and need to be enforced when they park there. Other highlights, we have innovated the concept of mailing parking tickets. Today we mail tickets to all 50 states. We manage over 50,000 spots and have millions of sessions. And the underlying technology that I'm showing you in the SafetyStick, which also connects to our off-street technology and our parking meters, is essentially the same. And we have over 30 defensible patents related to the technology that I'm about to show you and the other technologies in our portfolio. So meet the safety stick. So as fate would have it, yesterday, the Boston Globe at 5:46 a.m. published this story. Boston, parked cars regularly block buses. Other cities show it doesn't have to be this way. So I was pretty happy to see that story because they're talking about the city of Boston, who I hope to be doing business with. But more importantly, they were talking about my customer, the city of Somerville, which is right next door to Boston. For those of you who may not know Somerville, it's the 14th most dense city in America. It's the #1 most dense city in Massachusetts. So what is a safety stick? You're looking at one. It's about 37 inches tall. That little yellow circle that you see is our radar detector. It's programmed to pick up a field of vision that includes no parking areas. Next to that yellow piece of equipment is a high definition camera, just like the same camera that's used by parking enforcement officers across the country to take pictures to support evidence of parking tickets, whether it be plates or entire cars. So we put this in places that are dangerous and marked as no parking areas. It's solar powered. It can operate for up to a year on basically an hour a day of sunlight. It can go for months with no sunlight. And it's about 8 inches wide. And I'll talk a little bit more about how it's installed and how it can be moved a little later. The technology, what we've seen in the cities and campuses where we've installed it, is it changes parking behavior. It makes people think twice about parking in these areas where no one wants them to park. Because it's solar powered, it can be easily set up and moved quickly. And unlike bus mounted cameras or car mounted LPR setups, it's always in one place. It doesn't rely on chance being in the right place at the right time. So why did we invent this? We had already developed a technology similar to this that we had put in parking meters that helped recognize payments and also recognize when people didn't pay. We discovered that, by just doing research, that illegal parking was a challenge for enforcement officers around the country, that enforcement organizations were struggling to staff up, that enforcement officers were often subject to harassment and assaults. And we researched this topic and we came up with this idea. Some of the other things that swayed our opinion were rather persistent reports of pedestrians being injured and killed. In this study, a staggering 58% of fatalities related to pedestrians being hit in streets. 40-year high. In this study, between 2000 and 21, the number of pedestrians injured or killed, pedestrian deaths rose by 77%. So we thought, what can we do about this? What technology do we own? How can we affect people's behavior? And we came up with the safety stick. Along the way, we learned about Vision Zero. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a movement that started in Sweden. We're very supportive of the Vision Zero network here in the United States, a nonprofit that's devoted to the same principles. But the idea is that there are a lot of factors that contribute to people being injured and killed on the street. Everything from speed limits to distracted driving to lighting to clothing to age and, of course, where people park. The National Center for Health Statistics estimated in 2021, 8,900 pedestrians were killed on streets in the United States, and a high percentage of those were in non-traffic incident areas. So you might be wondering, what the heck is a non-traffic incident area? Well, it's these places where we put the safety sticks: crosswalks, bus stops, bike lanes, no parking areas that are clearly marked and some that are not, fire hydrants, red zones. And this goes not only obviously for municipalities, it goes for uh, commercial parking lots, hospitality settings, and of course in colleges and university settings. So what does the stick look like in these areas? These are samples in front of a bus stop, in a bus lane. A classic one's in front of a hydrant. A hydrant is probably not a Vision Zero issue so much as, it's just not a place anybody should park anytime. This is an example in Massachusetts. You can see this is a corner. You can see that there's a no parking sign. It's pretty clear that this is a place where intuitively you shouldn't park. You should know that without having a sign to remind you. But people do park. And so what happens when they do? It narrows the corner. It potentially, depending on what kind of vehicle they're driving, it can obstruct the crosswalk. It can obstruct the stop sign. And somebody pulling over just to get a cup of coffee, or somebody just trying to cross the street to get a piece of pizza could end up being literally a catastrophe. This is Somerville. This is a bus stop where people are issued tickets after they linger for 3 minutes. Some people have parked here for over an hour. Some people have parked here for 2 hours. We also have a stick in the foreground that's watching a fire hydrant. This is a sample violation that our system detected. And you can see in this case, this person stayed for 41 minutes and 59 seconds. This is an example on a campus near a stop sign intersection where somebody also parked for 4 hours. This is an example of somebody parking a bike lane. I have a lot of friends that work for UPS and FedEx. I have a lot of empathy that they have a hard job, that cities are trying to accommodate where these trucks should park. But in this example, this person parked for 45 minutes. And every few minutes, somebody had to be diverted from the bike path into the street, which kind of obviously defeats the whole purpose of having a bike path. Sadly, this is an example that was published a couple of weeks ago in San Diego. A cyclist hit a UPS truck, or no, excuse me, hit a city vehicle, and it resulted in somebody dying, and it resulted in the city obviously having to make a big payout. It's a stupid thing that should have been avoided. I think we can all agree on that, right? So how does our platform work? There's essentially 5 steps. The first step is the SafetyStick detects a violation after some amount of grace period that we decide on with the city or university. The data or evidence form is uploaded to a cloud. That data is accessible by enforcement, law enforcement, parking enforcement, or any other officials you want to study it or to act on it. If they agree with us that this is an example of somebody that's in the wrong place at the wrong time doing the wrong thing, then they press a button and we mail a ticket on their behalf, or they can mail the ticket themselves. All the payment and appeals are the same. So there's no change. The ticket that they get in the mail and the ticket that they would get on the windshield are exactly the same. The only difference, as you'll see in a minute here, is it's accompanied by an evidence form, which really provides an irrefutable example of what they were doing. So this is a screenshot of CenturyLink. This is our cloud-based portal that we give our customers access to. Each one of those thumbnails represents a violation like you've just seen. When you click on one of those thumbnail pictures, it expands. And essentially what the officer is seeing is the arrival and departure of somebody leaving a spot where they never should have been. In this case, in this city, We also have a picture of the spot where you were never supposed to park. And in case there was any doubt through GPS, we have a Google map of where this happened. So this evidence form and the city or university's ticket are bundled together and mailed to the registered owner of the vehicle. So I talked about 90% reduction in illegal parking. What does that look like? What do I mean? Well, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which, as some of you may not know, is the largest city in Connecticut, we installed safety sticks in 2020. Prior to that, the city was writing about 2 tickets per month per illegal area. On the first day that they installed the safety stick in 2020 in Bridgeport, they recorded 11 violations per space in some cases. So we were writing 5 times more tickets in one day than they were writing in 1 month. Now, everyone knows that that's probably a recipe for public angst. Luckily, over time, word gets around and the behavior changes. 5 years later in Bridgeport, or 4 years later in Bridgeport, we're only issuing about 1 ticket per space, or 1 every other day. So fiscally, because they were writing 2 tickets a day prior to our arrival, and those tickets were about $40 a piece, and now they're writing 1 every day or every other day, they're generating about 7 times more in fine collections than they had previously. Now, I know that for a lot of parking professionals, it's not smart to talk about fines in the form of revenue, but every city needs fines and revenues to offset operating costs and other expenses. And a nice way to generate that is by changing behavior like Bridgeport did and making the streets more safer. So you might be wondering, how do you install this? It's really a 3-step process. You put a couple of bolts in the ground. You put the safety stick on top. Lose my voice here for a minute. Hold on. Taking a sip of water. You put the safety stick on and you reach inside and you turn on the cellular network, which we provide. The cellular network is used to communicate the data to the cloud. This is a busy slide that I don't expect you to be able to see all the detail to, but it's a global slide from Vision Zero, talking about 37,000 deaths a year for pedestrians, and that it's urging cities to adopt widespread use of automated enforcement and to accelerate those efforts as much as they can. And hopefully by 2035, cities will be using this technology. And so the good news is we invented this, we patented it, it's available today. So how is it available? Under what circumstances? So our model is we provide the safety stick at no cost upfront, I should say, to the city or town or university. We install it, we maintain it, we warranty it for the life of the agreement. We've seen that it's a force multiplier for parking enforcement organizations that can't hire enough people. We see that it's linked to pedestrian safety because it's in the places where pedestrians are injured, where people illegally park. It's always on, 24 hours a day. And we charge a license fee depending on how much we are involved in mailing the tickets or the city is involved in mailing tickets. We charge a license fee, basically a software as a service license fee. And all payments and appeals are streamlined. Like I said, everything that's on the ticket that normally goes on the windshield goes on the ticket that goes in the mail. So payments the same, adjudication and appeals are the same. So you've heard from me what I say. What do our customers say? Mayor Brown from Wilkes-Barre recently said in an interview, if you park in an illegal spot, you're going to get a ticket. Pretty clear, right? Do they have enforcement officers? Of course they do. We have enforcement officers, but they just can't be everywhere. And I think that echoes a lot of parking professionals that we talk to across the country. In Somerville, Suzanne Rinfrey runs parking. We want to do this because of safety. In a perfect world, we never have a ticket in our city. I think everybody aspires to that, but the reality is something different. People were parking at bus stops from 3 minutes to 30 minutes. People were abusing these locations. So, as you saw in the example I showed earlier, there was an example of over 30 minutes, 41 minutes. This is an example from St. Edwards, one of our university customers in Texas. MPS has been a great partner with St. Edwards University. We tried out the SafetyStick. We wanted to try and provide short-term parking for individuals visiting our library and registrar's office that did not require paid permits or paid parking. MPS installed their safety devices on our campus in the areas we targeted at no upfront costs. So, with that, well under 60 minutes, 21 minutes, 55 seconds, I will pause there for questions, Kenny.
Yep, no problem. We got a bunch. These next few are from Jay Miller. Just for on-street / curbside applications?
Well, a great question. It can also be used in garage settings or in retail settings. We have some police departments have told us that they're constantly being summoned to retail locations by the retailer or by consumers because someone's parked in a fire lane or in a handicap spot. The SafetyStick can be used in those applications. So it's long answer to short question. It can be used on campus settings, city locations, and commercial settings.
What is the service licensing fee that MPS charges? Is it based per ticket?
It is. It's based on the violations that we detect and present, and based on the city accepting those or rejecting those. The city, people often compare the SafetyStick to a robot. It's not a robot. It does what it's told. Humans, at the end of the day, have discretion over what's a ticket and what's not. So cities can reject tickets, but if they approve them, we charge a license fee associated with that ticket.
Can enforcement days and hours be set, or is it strictly 24/7 enforcement?
Another great question. Yes, hours can be set. The stick can be moved. We're very flexible there.
And from a maintenance perspective, does MPS cover vandalism?
That's a great question. So the SafetyStick is installed in some of the toughest environments in the United States. In a metro area outside of Detroit, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, has a reputation for being kind of a rough and tumble place, and a few other places. And the short answer is yes, we cover vandalism and acts of God.
Well, Sharon Z asks, can video be requested by police force in instances of crime?
Well, that's a good question. The SafetyStick takes pictures based on detecting cars in a spot. It's not video based. We have an electric version of it that can be connected to power that can provide evidence that can be used by police for person of interest investigations. Imagine, they have a suspect and they have a license plate of a suspect, and they want to see if this person parked within the vicinity of a crime. With our parking meters, we were able to use this technology to help solve an arson case and even a bank robbery on Long Island. So the short answer is yes, it can be used by police, but its primary function is really for parking enforcement.
Thank you. Poppy asks, how are you getting around the laws in some states that require parking citations to be placed on the vehicle windshield at time of issuance, such as California?
Great question. So we're in up to 17 states now with the SafetyStick, and every single state, every single city, the first customer always asks two questions. Who else in my state is using this? And is this legal? So we have worked with every city and every state where we've installed this to help them navigate the legal environment or regulatory environment. In some cases, it's a matter of passing a home rule petition. In other cases, it involves actually passing laws. But we'd be very interested in talking to you about our current efforts in California, and we're very optimistic that we're going to be putting up our first customer there very shortly.
No. Jay Miller asked, while the SafetyStick is solar powered, is there a rechargeable battery that needs to be replaced?
Yes, there's a proprietary battery that we developed that needs to be charged basically once a year, and we take care of all that. We basically replace it.
Gotcha. Thank you. He also asked a similar question to the state question. So Jay Miller, you have your answer there as well. Thomas asks, does your company website provide the same information? Can I have a copy of the presentation slides? We will the video will be up. We can't, Rob, I can't send the slides if you want. Up to you.
Well, yeah, just reach out to me, Rob at MPSpark.com. Happy to talk with you.
There you go. And everybody will get a notification when this is available in on our YouTube page. In a garage application, can it use ambient light for charging, or is there an AC application?
There's a AC application.
Gotcha. Thank you. How much? Oh, never mind. Matthew asked, for the annual battery replacement, do you typically send an MPS staffer to do that, or do you send the batteries to your customer's maintenance department?
We have a field organization that maintains all SafetySticks in all 50 states.
Thank you. Yeah, we have more questions. Please drop them in the chat. And how much space can a SafetyStick monitor?
It's a great question. So it can capture basically the length of a car, and depending where it's placed, it can capture 2 lanes or 3 lanes. We recommend, because we provide them at no cost, we're happy to put them up, more than one if required. As you can tell from the form factor, they're very similar to bollards that are used throughout the United States to keep cars from jumping the sidewalk and hurting pedestrians. So what we've heard from a lot of our customers is they really like the form factor. They think that it provides not only an illegal parking deterrent, but it provides a deterrent from driving on the sidewalk.
Philip asks, what is the installation tools and time required to install and remove?
It can be as short as 15 minutes, depending on the structure that we're installing it into.
Thank you. How long do you keep and store parking data?
That's a great question that comes up a lot. So most of the cities that we're dealing with already have some policies around cameras. It could be security cameras that they're using to watch sidewalks. It could be red light cameras, which we're often compared to and confused with, which I'm going to preempt any questions on that. A red light camera violation is a moving violation. This is a civil parking violation, to apples and oranges. But to answer your question more directly, we comply with whatever the city or town policy is. And if they don't have a policy, we'll develop one with them and follow it.
Thank you. You talked a little bit more about the cameras. Can you tell me more about how they function? What else does it capture in its field of vision? Does it capture faces?
That's another great question. So the camera is trained to pick up an object. So when an object occupies an illegal parking area, it focuses first on the object and then on the plate. Will it get someone's face? I'll answer that the same way I answered the Boston Globe. If somebody gets on their hands and knees and they put their face right next to the license plate, we're going to get their face. But actually, our AI will filter that out so that the cities don't see that, and certainly not the end customer, the end violator, I should say.
Understood. If you have any more questions, please drop them in the chat. Can I rent a safety stick? Can you share more about the revenue model?
We have never rented a safety stick, but if you have an idea or an application, I'm open to hearing more. And then the pricing model is something that we'd rather discuss one-on-one, but broadly, it's a software license model, just like the same software as a service model that you pay for Microsoft software or for hosting data in the cloud. It's a percentage of the published ticket price.
Thank you, Rob. We have no more questions today.
Well, Kenny, I want to thank you for putting this all together and choreographing all this. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk to IPMI professionals. And again, my email address is rob, R-O-B, at mpspark.com. If you have any questions, comments, you want to see a demo, you want to install some of these and try them out, I'd love to hear from you, and wish you all well in the field.
Thank you. Oh yeah, no problem. Can I ask you one more question, Rob?
Yes.
Thomas asked, what's the warranty? Is there a warranty?
So the product is warranted for the life of the contract. So most of our contracts are 5 to 10 years. Some of them are as short as 3 years. Whatever the term of the contract is, we cover all the costs for repair and maintenance.
And they're coming right under the wire. Sorry, Rob.
Okay.
Will you be at the IPMI show? I hope to see you there.
Yes, we'll be there with an extra large booth, thanks to you guys. We'll also be in Amsterdam at the Intertraffic International Parking Show in a couple of weeks. If we have any international guests joining us today, love to talk with you.
Great, thank you. And if there are no more questions, I will send again this recording as well as Rob's contact info in a follow-up email in a few days. Yep, if we have no more questions, I want to thank Rob for today's Learning Lab, and we want to thank all of you for joining us today. Have a great day, everybody.